Folks joining us from home, good morning, you latecomers. Husband? Is okay. He's getting the hang of being the preacher's husband. Well, good morning. It's so good to see you all, and welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We welcome you here. As Unitarian Universalists, we really honor and promote and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So I want you to know that you and all of your identities are most welcomed here with us today and always. Today we continue a conversation we started this month, our theme on cultivating relationship. Sounds like a good thing. And I want to give a special shout out. Where's Millie Fuller? Could you open the doors? Millie, speaking of cultivating relationship, I want to give a special shout out this morning to Millie and Richard's son, James Fuller, who became a husband yesterday. Millie, we're just celebrating the cultivation of relationship with James and Irma. So I was privileged to officiate the wedding, and it was beautiful. So congratulations, Millie and Richard. So today we're going to talk about radical inclusion. So we use the word welcome a lot, but today we're going to flip that word welcome, and we're going to start talking about inclusion. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And I want to begin this morning with this piece, or an excerpt of a piece by somebody named Richard Crass, and this piece is called "To All Get Free Together." Our goal is not to have white people sit alongside a person of color, so to affirm that those white people aren't racist. Our goal is to build and be part of a beloved community, united to end structural oppression and unleash collective liberation in our faith communities, schools, neighborhoods, workplaces, and throughout all of society. Our goal is to join hands across the divisions of racism in our faith and in our communities and affirm the humanity in each other. Our goal is for our faith communities to be spiritually alive, learning from and contributing to liberation cultures and legacies. For our faith communities to be welcoming homes for people of all colors, sexualities, classes, ages, abilities, genders, and citizenship statuses. For our faith communities to regularly invite us into and prepare us for courageous action for collective liberation, held in loving community for the long haul. May our faith communities be active agents in the world to help us all get free together. That sounds like a pretty good thing, don't you think? Yeah, please join me as we join in our opening hymn. Today, once again, we have our wonderful hymn ensemble, just a little warm up to our full choir, which will be joining us hopefully in the new year. Hymn ensemble, please rise, and please everyone rise in body or spirit. We're going to turn to hymn 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather your spirit, harvest of love, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of the hour, one light appear once again. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather in spirit of heart and mind, seeds of the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in hope, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
We're waiting on the camera to move over. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Michael Myers, and I'm the, let's see, how many things have I not right now? The chairman of the IT committee, a member of the COVID task force. Well, when we get the choir back going, I'll be up in the bass section. Let's see, what else have I got? Oh, I'm on the worship committee. That's why I'm up here in the first place. Each Sunday we light our chalice. Its light is the symbol of our faith and a reminder of our commitment to be a beacon of love and hope to all who enter, whether they be in person or virtual. Today's lighting words are from Franklin Thomas. One day our descendants will think it's incredible that we paid so much attention to things like the amount of melanin in your skin, or the shape of your eyes, or your gender, instead of the unique identities of each of us of complex human beings. Now, in the spirit of beloved community, let us take a moment to greet and welcome each other to fellowship. If this is your first time with us, feel free to introduce yourself on the chat forum as we share our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike.
I'm going to invite you to stand up, give your body a little stretch as you greet each other. I know we have our masks on, so... oh, we've got some greeting music going on. That's good greeting music. Good morning. Good morning.
Let's see if I can go get the children.
Okay, say hi to somebody new. Hi, Diane over there. Jim Bennett, say hi to Diane. Good. Okay, everybody switch. Say hi to somebody different. Switch.
I'm Jeffrey Jacoby, and I have a story for all ages.
Ooh, I think our children are joining us. Jeffrey?
Hey, that's great.
Come on in, kids.
Stories are always better with kids.
Or a child.
Or a child, or a few, just a couple. Or,
too.
yeah. Anybody wants to hear a story? Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, today's story is called Different is Good by Rebecca Jackson. And Different is Good is a story about a boy named Ashura. And summer was Ashura's favorite season. He loved summer. He liked the green trees, the blooming flowers, all that stuff, but his favorite thing was school was out, so he could do whatever he wanted to. The day was his to do whatever he wanted to. He could play and do all kinds of stuff. On the street where Ashura lived, there was all kinds of families, and not one of them looked quite like his family. There were white people, brown people, and pink people, but Ashura thought that nobody at school gave them nicknames or pointed or whispered about them. Ashura wondered what makes us so strange and unwelcome. Ashura loved his family, but he just looked at them and he kind of felt like they were so different even from each other when he looked at them. Like him, Ashura, he felt like his skin was darker than the night sky. He was very dark. And his sister was kind of a warm color, the color of twilight. He had a little brother, too, that was fair, like a baby deer. And his father had this gold color to his skin that was like the color of dawn. His mother had a reddish, kind of coppery color to her skin, kind of like a lucky coin. One night, his mother said to him, "Hey, tomorrow it's going to be sunny. It's going to be nice. You could go play in the park. Your friends will be there. There's slides. It'll be really fun. You should go." Ashura's belly kind of twisted, and his heart started beating faster, because he started thinking about some of the kids that had been mean to him that go to that park. And he didn't think, I don't really want to go. But he didn't want to tell his mother he didn't really feel like he had any friends. So he just said, "Okay, Mom, yeah, I'll go." That night, Ashura couldn't sleep. He was really upset about thinking about going to the park. He was very worried. He thought about those kids being there, and his mother just didn't know how some of those kids could be. Sometimes they were so mean to him and said really awful things to him. They called him names like ghetto or ugly, or sometimes even worse words. And they made him feel terrible about himself. He felt this horrible feeling inside when they would do that. And he got really upset, and he kind of looked out the window and stared at the stars. And he looked at the stars, and he started talking to them. He said, "Please, stars, I don't want to go to the park tomorrow. I don't want to hear those names. I don't want to cry. I don't want to feel bad about myself. I can't look any other way than this. Please, stars, if you hear me, please help me." As he was finally starting to drift off into this kind of a troubled slumber, a creature appeared at his window. It wasn't human or any familiar animal he had ever seen. It was purple and covered in these bluish spots with these big blue eyes and these two kind of funny teeth, and it was kind of cute. And he came right into his room. And there he was. "Hi, Ashura, I'm Cleo. The stars tell me you have worries. Tell me what's the trouble. Maybe I can help." He said, "I'm scared of the kids in the park. They call me names and they leave me out of their games. They're going to stare and point at me, and I can't go to the park by myself. I can't do it on my own." "We'll do it together," Cleo said. "You can always count on me. Tomorrow we'll go to the park and it'll be wonderful. You'll see." So the next morning, Ashura woke up and he felt kind of excited about going to the park. He goes downstairs, he's eating breakfast, and he's thinking, maybe it's not going to be so bad. And he gets ready, and he's racing out the door, and his mom's saying, "Have fun, don't stay out too late." And he starts going down the street towards the park, and starts getting a little closer to the park, and he hears the laughter coming from the park and the shrieks of delight from the kids playing, and then he kind of remembered about what he was nervous about, and he slowed down again. He started getting that feeling. But then he thought, wait a minute, Cleo said, that he would be there. So, and he was. He was right there by the gate. He saw the little purple guy right there by the gate, and then it was at that point he noticed people walking right by this little monster, and nobody was noticing, and that's when he realized, I think Cleo's invisible to everybody but me. So the park was packed. There was a merry-go-round and swings and seesaws. There's kids playing all over the place. "Come with me. I want to show you something that'll help you understand." "How? You don't know what it's like being hated because I'm dark like the night." Cleo looked at him and said, "Well, yeah, you are. But being who you are is what makes you perfect. Do you see how everyone is unique? Ashura looked around and saw all the kids playing, and all he saw was all these classmates of his playing games without him and feeling left out. Cleo said, "No one's the same. Look at the girl in the swings over there, Aliyah. She wears a hijab, a head covering, every day." Some whisper, "What's she wearing? I'm going to pull that thing off," and stuff like that, but she ignores them. Their hurtful words don't bother her one bit. She knows who she is and what's important to her. Nothing they say can make her feel bad about herself. Her real friends tell her she's beautiful, and they think her job matches her eyes. Cleo said, "Listen to the voices that bring you up, Ashura, not the ones who bring you down." Ashura thought, okay, Cleo's not getting it. It's worse than he thinks it is. And said, "But you don't understand. You just don't know the mean things some of these kids say to me." And Ashura looked deeply in his eyes and said, "It ain't what they call you. It's what you come to that really matters." Ashura looked back at Aliyah on the swing. She was swinging and smiling, and he suddenly realized she was really beautiful. Cleo said, "It's not the outside, but what we feel and think inside that's different too. Look at Asim over there. He says daily prayers at Mecca. There's Esther over there. She goes to synagogue. Those twins that live across the street from you, they go to Mass every Sunday. And then there's some kids who have no religion at all. We're all different, tall, short, many colors. You and Aliyah are shades of brown. James and Sam are shades of pink. We're like colors in a box of crayons. We're all needed to complete the picture. Never fear the color you are. Your beauty doesn't come from outside or the way you look. It comes from deep within, from your strength of mind and your kindness of heart. That's where self-respect begins. Once you respect yourself, you can suddenly see others and respect them and admire them too. You may feel like your family is odd, but, what's normal? All families are unique in some way. Look at Susan in the sandbox over there. She has 2 daddies. Thomas over there only has a mom. Your family is part of this world just like them, so no matter what anyone thinks, don't ever be ashamed of where you're from." Cleo gave Ashura a big hug and just disappeared. There he went. Ashura suddenly heard Bella, a girl with long curly hair, calling him over to the sandbox. He ended up playing all day with her and her friends. They ran, they played tag all the way until the sun went down. Not one of the kids he played with was mean to him about the darkness of his skin. Cleo's message finally sank in. When you know we're all different, you will always fit in. All right, shall we sing our song of dedication?
I'm going to invite you all to rise. The words are in the order of service if you'd like to sing along with our children.
Doctrine of this church, confess the truths in sacrament, and services its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve in kind and fellowship, thus to be covenant with each other, thus to be promised to each other.
Thank you for joining me for story time. I appreciate it.
Well done, Bruce. Well done. Here at Emerson, our vision is to be a radically inclusive, open-minded, beloved community that is a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing in the world. We know we cannot live this vision alone, so each month we partner with another organization and encourage our members and friends to support the work they do both financially and with action. This month, we are partnering with Lost and Found Youth of Atlanta. Lost and Found Youth envisions a world where all youth feel safe and supported to live and love authentically. Why do you always give me the tough words? Authentically. Our vision, our mission, their mission is to end homelessness for all LGBTQ youth by providing them with skills and support needed to live independently. They offer LGBTQ youth 24-hour phone, text, and email support, emergency transition housing, emergency clothing and food for youth on the street, mental health evaluations and counseling, referrals to health and educational services, resume writing, editing, and interview skills training, and a safe youth center. In addition to making financial contributions, consider stopping by their thrift store to shop or make a contribution or volunteer directly with them. As our donation baskets go around, please feel free to take a card which describes the ways to give, and a lollipop, just for the fun of it. All donations, unless otherwise specified, are shared equally with Emerson and our partner organization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth Klein, and I serve Emerson's congregation as the Director of Family Ministry, but I'm also on the pastoral care team. Our pastoral care team members are available with listening ears and caring hearts to support you during your challenging times. You can contact the pastoral care team at our email address, pastoralcare@emersonuu.org. Each Sunday, we light our vigil bowl. Its light represents the light of hope for peaceful resolution of all conflicts on our planet, and it honors all dedicated people who serve us, including those who are still on the front line of battling the COVID battle. We also light a special candle of acknowledgement for the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of people who lived on this land in our very own neighborhood before us. May this candle remind us of our interconnection, and may our actions help heal all nations of people. At this time in our service, we pause to share personal joys, sorrows, and concerns of our Emerson congregation. If you would like to share a joy, sorrow, or concern with the community, please take this time to type those into the Zoom chat, and we'll read aloud the ones that are shared while Reverend Deborah lights our care candles. We have several joys, which is always lovely. From Kathy and Brady Middleman, a joy and a little bit of concern. 24 years ago, we were told that our daughter Caitlin had cerebral palsy and would never speak 10 intelligible words. Last year, with words aplenty, if you know Caitlin, you know that's true. She graduated with a degree in anthropology from the University of Roehampton in London, England. And this morning, we are at the International Airport seeing her off on her next excursion. She is moving to a suburb of Seoul, South Korea, to teach English for the next year. We wish her all happiness, safety, adventure, and success. And a word to Caitlin, just in case she's listening. We all miss you beyond measure, but we are oh so very proud of you. See you on Zoom. That's from Kathy and Brady Milliman. We have another joy from, oh no, where'd it go? Sorry about that. Another joy from James and Brad. And James and Brad add that James's best friend of 20 years got married yesterday to a wonderful person. It was a beautiful day with friends and family, and that's his joy. We have a concern. Please send healing energy to Ann Mason and Sister Betsy. Betsy is beginning treatment to fight cancer. Blessings to you all. Mary. Oh, and James, for his friends that got married, their names are Peter and Michelle. We know that there may be joys, sorrows, or concerns that are too tender to share in full. Feel free to speak aloud or type into the chat the name of someone you are holding close in your heart today. Jean, LaFonda Harris, Wanda and Dudley, Katie, our daughter, and her husband. Let us now send our heartfelt, caring intention to those named and those unnamed, and to all people everywhere by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. If you'll repeat the words after me, please. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May they be free from harm and suffering. May they be free from harm and suffering. May they be well in body, heart, and mind. May they be at peace. May they be at peace. Blessed be.
Sorry, I shoo you off, Beth.
Well, look at all
I
this.
don't have another mic today. Lots of technology. This is our time where we start to settle into our own bodies and our own spaces. So I'm going to invite you to find a space of your very own. Notice that seat that you are sitting in. Giving yourself these next minutes to just breathe with yourself. Our lives can be so busy and our focus turned outward so often. Allow yourself this time, just for a few minutes, to draw your awareness inward. Feeling your very own breath inside your body. And invite your body to open with that breath, perhaps expanding the chest or the belly, sitting up a little straighter. And allow the body to relax in the exhale. As you breathe, your individuated self in this body, Allow that awareness of self to expand. Though your body is in one seat, your actions, your emotions, your thoughts, they extend beyond your very own self. Let this time be a time where you begin to feel that beautiful dynamic elasticity, awareness of self, awareness of other. Perhaps bring your awareness ever so slightly to the others in this room, the others connected through the magic of the internet. Here's some words from Douglas Steer. He says, "The ancient question, who am I, inevitably leads to a deeper question. Whose am I? Because there is not identity outside of relationship. You cannot be a person all by yourself. To ask, whose am I, is to wonder, who needs me? Who do I need? With whom do I share love? To whom am I accountable? To whom do I answer? How are my choices impacting the world? With whose life is my life all bound up with, inextricably tied in obvious or invisible ways?" Take one more moment. Bring your awareness to self. Extend it to others. Bring it back to self. Extend it to others. Feel the place where there is no difference. As you're ready, you may open your eyes.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change, alive from deep within the earth.
It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the world. It is time now.
And what a time to be alive. In this great
Turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to lead these fires. We shall be known by the ones we sow and reap the seeds of change, alive and deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the world. It is time now.
and what
to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Thank you for doing that song. It's really awesome. We shall be known by the company we keep. We shall learn to lead in love. We welcome you. We are glad you are here. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of each and every person. An interesting pronoun, that word, we. Now, my husband has pointed out its mysteries when I say things like, isn't it cold in here? We should turn up the heat. By this, of course, I mean I am cold and you should get out of bed and increase the heat setting so that we are happy. I'm going to guess some of you can relate. That little two-letter word, we, is just sitting there begging the question, who exactly is this we? Now, every group struggles with its identity, and Unitarian Universalists are no different. And the last few years, there have been many conversations about this collective struggle with our identity, with the question, who are we? Who is included in this we when we say we? How does one get to be part of the we? And perhaps most pressing, what does it even mean to be part of this we? Now, in case you had not noticed, Unitarian Universalism is a non-creedal faith. In other words, you have not been asked to recite the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed or the Dr. Bonner soap bottle or any other statement of belief when you entered here. That would take all day, soap fans. Instead, we gather here as theists and atheists, as agnostics and humanists and pagans and Buddhists and yogis and spiritual or not so spiritual folk. What a group. Look around. It is true, though, that back in 1961, when the Unitarians and the Universalists consolidated, they came together from a legacy of primarily white Christian spaces. But those that gathered came with the hope and the intention and the calling to be something more. So they set about declaring that this new religion would be a faith not based on creeds, but instead that Unitarian Universalism would be a covenantal faith, a faith based on an agreement about how we would be together and what we would do. Some call us a faith of deeds, not creeds. And so the newly formed Unitarian Universalist Association created bylaws that contained Article 2. Now, Article 2 did not outline a creed, but instead outlined a set of principles. You could call them values for this emerging faith. And as part of this dynamic document, they included another section. And this is one that I think was the most important part of the bylaws. Section C, 15.1c. Does anybody have that one memorized? No? Okay, I'll tell you what it said then. In this section that I truly think actually defines this faith and might be the most challenging, it states that every 15 years, Article 2, the very principles, purposes, and sources of this faith must be re-examined. And let's just stop there for a moment. Isn't that amazing? So here's this group of people back in 1960 and 1961, and I am sure that they felt very strongly that what they were coming up with, what they were creating and defining was good and was right. And yet, they knew that baked into this new faith, if it was going to be true to its origins, There was a requirement to be continually open to change. Those early Unitarian Universalists knew the reality that life itself offers us ongoing revelations, and that responding to these new discoveries would be as vital as any principle they could muster up in that moment. Well, as anticipated, change did come, as did disagreement. In the mid-1980s, a grassroots swell of many women, and a few guys, recognized the sexist language in the first set of principles and called for the association to create more gender inclusivity in their wording. Many also wanted the principles to be more clearly reflective of the changing theology of those in the movement. And the result was the 7 principles that we know today. Included then was a list of 5 sources of wisdom, and there were also a few other sections added to Article 2, including purpose, a freedom of belief statement, and a non-discrimination statement. Our 6th source, the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, was added in 1995. So fast forward a few years, and in 2006, a new commission was convened to review Article 2. And after 3 years of in-depth study and input by many, many thousands of Unitarian Universalists from across the country, the commission brought forth potential revisions. They bring forth to the General Assembly. That was in 2009. The Assembly, however, voted down the continuation of that review process, and so those revisions were never ratified. Now, interestingly, one of the biggest changes that commission recommended at that time was changing the section in Article 2 titled Non-Discrimination, which was your basic, we don't discriminate on the basis of kind of paragraph. Their recommendation was to replace that statement with a section titled Inclusion. And this new proposed paragraph was to read thus. This is in 2006. Systems of power, privilege, and oppression have traditionally created barriers for persons and groups with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories. We pledge to do all we can to replace such barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. We strive to be an association of congregations that truly welcome all persons and commit to structuring congregational and associational life in ways that empower and embrace everyone's participation. Anybody see any problems with that statement? I don't. Now, perhaps some of you were there and can speak about the process. I was not. But I do have to wonder, how much was a fear of change or a fear of really expanding that we and creating full inclusion, how much was that in play that caused those gathered there that day to vote down continuing to explore these changes? I wonder, was the we that was gathered on that day really the whole we of Unitarian Universalists? Now, although the Unitarian Universalists gathered that day in 2009 did not choose this new statement of inclusion, the need for this change hasn't gone away. And over the last decade, our world has continued to show us over and over that non-discrimination ain't cutting it. It's not enough. It's not enough to create a just world. And so there's been a growing call for us to relook at this Article 2. Now, spurred once again by a groundswell of change agents within Unitarian Universalism, there's actually now a proposal for a new principle to be added to our 7 principles. This began about a decade ago. A woman named Paula Cole-Jones began to notice in her justice work with Unitarian Universalist congregations that she said she seemed to see what she thought was 2 different paradigms within congregations. She noted that one paradigm was grounded in the UU7 principles, while the other was based on a call for the creation of what she calls deep multiculturalism, also known as beloved community. In her justice work building, Paula Jones says she realized that a person can be and believe and be a good you and embrace the 7 principles without deeply thinking about or dealing with racism and other oppressions at the systemic level. She cites evidence of this by the fact that most Unitarian Universalist congregations are still primarily European American in membership, in our culture, especially our music, and leadership. And even when they are located near diverse communities, and even as the awareness of the need to be welcoming to all has been part of our collective discussions now for years. Paula Cole Jones realized that a change was needed to correct this, and together in 2013 with Bruce Pollock Johnson put together the initial draft of a proposed 8th principle. And the 8th principle reads like this: we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. A beloved community has been defined as what happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, abilities, sexual orientations, backgrounds, identities, when they all come together in an interdependent web of relationship, mutual respect, and care. Isn't that what we all want? The 8th principle is fundamentally a call for radical, and by that I mean complete inclusion in the creation of beloved community. Now already many individual congregations have had meetings and they've ratified the 8th principle. So you can walk into some Unitarian Universalist congregation and they will have 8 principles on the wall instead of just 7. Now while this 8th principle sounds good to me, I personally am a little bit weary of a quick vote. And I'm weary because I feel that we must also remember that there's no banner flying in the winds outside our congregations or no statement of purpose we can put on the wall that is going to take the place of what the work is embedded in those words. To be a people of deeds, not creeds, we must also ask, what are the actions that must accompany this statement? So my friends, the question is, how do we live into the revelation that we are not yet a beloved community? In her book titled Stories of Inclusion, Power, Privilege, and Difference in a Peace and Justice Network, author Deborah Patelli says this. She says, inclusion, and this is the good juicy part of the sermon, if you were asleep before, heads up. Inclusion is engaging the uniqueness of the talents, beliefs, backgrounds, capabilities, and needs of the individual and groups when joined in a common endeavor. Now she notes that too often in diversity work and in justice work, inclusion, this is the really juicy part, starts to look like a welcoming of others to come to a game that has already begun, whose agenda, rules, standards have already been set. In other words, others are welcome to come, to join, as long as they assimilate. Inclusivity based on assimilation, Patelli points out, requires that those entering fulfill the interests and perspectives of the dominant group, and it denies the reality of oppression and blinds privileged groups, resulting in an exclusive versus inclusive environment. And I think those are some challenging words because they ask us to really re-examine something I know we as UUs hold dear, the idea of welcoming. I like to put it another way. I think what she's saying is it's easy to add a place setting to the table and invite a guest in. But it takes something different to welcome others into the kitchen to help design the meal. I like to do that. And I ask us, how do we do that? How do we evolve from being welcoming to radically inclusive? While I think that answer is long and very nuanced, let me offer today what I think is just the first step. And simply stated, inclusion, radical inclusion, I think it requires us to be willing to be altered by another's presence, right? I remember a set of friends of mine who were pregnant with their first child at the same time I was pregnant with my first, and we hung out often, talked about pregnancy and childbirth and upcoming unknowns of parenting. And then one day, when we barely got in the door for a visit, they had a grand announcement that they were very anxious to share. So they sat us down and they said, "You see, we've decided to promise each other that we're not going to let this new child change our lives." They said that. Instead, they were going to continue to do all the things they had done prior to being parents, and their relationship and the entirety of their lives was not going to change. And boy, were they proud of their declaration. Now, what's that saying down here? Bless their hearts. Am I using that right? Yeah. Bless their hearts. At the time, my husband and I looked at each other and just said, "Oh dear." Now, needless to say, their declaration, I think, caused more harm than good. It's a silly example, but one I think many of us can relate to. Of course, the baby was going to change their lives. That's the purpose of our children. Children are like, "Yes, I knew that." And you guys do it so well. And what a gift. What a gift. And yet I think so often we forget that the same principle applies all the time to the other people we encounter. The inclusion of others in our lives will change us. That's the purpose of being in a world with other human beings. And what a gift. And what a gift. And what a shame to try to live otherwise. Religious communities, by their nature, are often stagnant environments. They say, in this space, we believe X, Y, Z, and our traditions say this, and we do that. And this is how it's always been done. These communities, by their nature, operate from a place of oppression. For oppression says this, it says, "Sure, you may come in, but stay in this box where I can see you and control you. You don't get to have input, but please, come in." But a religious community that aspires to be a beloved community, a community of radical inclusion, must be willing to invite all forces, all voices to be equal partners in creation. Radical inclusion says, "You are welcome here. Please come in, share yourself, touch us, change us. Who we are will be different because you are here. Because you are now part of we." And what a gift. As Archbishop Desmond Tutu has said, "My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together." We are different precisely in order to realize our need of one another. Now, the UUA has commissioned a team who right now is in the process of reviewing Article 2. And whether we wait for these recommendations as a congregation or some people choose to get together and start our own conversation about the 8th principle, I think isn't as important to me as this work of radical inclusion I invite you all into. So may we be a community wise enough to realize our need of one another, brave enough to welcome the gifts of change others bring, and radical enough to be truly inclusive. Yes? Sounds good. Please rise and let's sing. I don't know what we're singing. Let me see. A song. Oh, come and go with me. It is in the teal hymnal. So if you have a teal hymnal near you, it's number 1018.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm born, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm born. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm born, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm born, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm born. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm born, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm born.
I'm going to close with these words by Adrienne Marie Brown. She wrote a wonderful book recently, Emergent Strategies. I encourage you to pick a copy up. She says, do you already know that your existence, who and how you are, is in and of itself a contribution to the people and the place around you? Not after or because you do something particular, but simply the miracle of your life. May you each share the miracle that is you with each other. Blessed be.
We hope you have been nourished in heart and mind by our worship today and have kind of enjoyed the fun of the day. As our chalice is extinguished this morning, please join me in the final words. They are posted in the chat and in the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the commitment of prior commitment. To our air in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
Go now in peace and take peace wherever you go.
just want to... Oh, good. Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to... What am I supposed to do? I know, I forgot. Oh,